So we don't have any Transformer news today on Transformer Tuesday. It looks like Hasbro is going to be keeping all their reveals for next week when we're going to see stuff on their October 27th live stream for Hasbro Pulse. So instead, let's jump into some Patreon listener questions. Once again, if you want to be part of the Transformer Slag podcast Patreon and help support the podcast, let us know. We're doing a half-decent job keeping you entertained and informed and educated on the Transformer world. Patreon.com/Protoman. What does your hard-earned money get you if you join the Patreon? Gets you access to our awesome Discord, where you get to hang out, talk Transformers, see the news get broken. We have a whole bunch of lore and deals and all kinds of stuff. Whenever there's sales in the Transformer world, we let you know about it so you don't have to pay full price for your Transformer product. There's always sales every week, and it goes over people's heads. Don't pay full MSRP. There's always a cheaper way to go about it, and we make sure that there's a way that you can. And, of course, you get your name in the end credit scroll at the end of every segment. Gives you access to all our giveaways that we do. We did a whole bunch of giveaways the past couple of weeks on the live stream, so be sure to tune in on the Saturday Night live stream if you're a patron or a YouTube member to get in on those free giveaways. Get some brand new Transformer product for brand new free. We ship it to you. We cover everything. Free is a good price. Free is a very good price. And, of course, depending on what tier, get a little something in the mail, a little gift, a little this, a little that, or even a chance to ask the Patreon listener question. And we have a Patreon listener question. We actually have two today that we're going to be covering. We have one from Jesus Prime and the other one from Space Ghostal, our longtime patron. And we're going to jump into Jesus Prime first, and he wants to know, hey there, Proto Man. I have a Patreon listener question for you. Looking in-house for Transformers and their collaborative line, you've said that in the past it was only a matter of time before G.I. Joe and Transformers got a true crossover line. You were proven right with the Hiss Tank Megatron, so looking at other Transformer properties and the 40th anniversary of Zoids coming up, do you think there could be something there? I know Zoids is not as popular as it is in the West, and the latest Zoids line, Zoids Wild, was not even fully imported by Hasbro in the West. But there are fans that really love the original designs and characters. So in your opinion, do you think Zoids has a chance? Or to quote Thanos, it's inevitable? Or am I just dreaming? Thanks for everything you do and the positive community you have fostered and created. Jesus Prime. Well, thank you for the kind words, Jesus Prime. And again, I want to go back to my statement with the G.I. Joe one. It's not that I was right. It's so much that I was just looking at the numbers. You know, like it was just, with this podcast, I'm not some guy with a crystal ball that's just predicting things. And the reason why I'm right, and I go, I told you so. It's more just, I just kind of look at like, hey, you know, it was 2022. G.I. Joe's 40th anniversary. They got to do something, because historically a lot of these collaboratives have always fallen on anniversaries that are shared, and that was the case. G.I. Joe comic book, Real American Hero, came out in June of 1982. You know, Hiss Tank was, when was that? That was like February of 2022. So they did it on an anniversary, you know, and then we got our Megatron, we got our Bumblebee, and who knows what we're going to get afterwards? Who knows? But, I mean, it's not the first time we've had crossover product with Transformers, let alone comic books and stuff. But this was the first time we're having some kind of, like, ongoing line, I guess we could say. A little small imprint line with the 3-inch O-ring stuff. But, going to what you're saying, 40th anniversary of Zoids coming up. Is there a possibility that they could do something? I think that if they did do something with Zoids, I think they would do it the same way that they did it with their collaboration that they did with the Evangelion line. Neon Genesis Evangelion. Transformers did a crossover with Eva. It was celebrating the 30th anniversary of Transformers and the 20th anniversary of Evangelion. Eva had their manga that came out in late 1995, and then the anime debuted in 96. So they were sharing an anniversary together, and they did a whole bunch of like these quiet little homages and crossovers in Japan, because it's a much bigger property over there with Eva, where they did MP10 in the Eva colors, and they did some Q Transformer little 3-pack with Eva Unit 0, 1, and 2, done in colors like that, again repainting from Q Transformer molds. So that was all done between 2014 and 2015. again, covering both of those anniversaries of Eva, both the original manga and, of course, the anime. So, and again, Eva's popular here in the West, especially within the anime and the mecha community, but it's obviously way more popular back home in Japan. So I kind of see that they could potentially do a crossover. They could potentially do something, but it might be something that'll be a Hasbro Pulse exclusive, limited numbers, but otherwise pretty plentiful in the East on, let's say, Takara-Tomy Mall website. I kind of see how, in the same way that there's that huge effort with Raiden with the MPG Masterpiece, and how that's such a Japanese product, but you could still kind of pick it up from Hasbro Pulse, it'll be kind of handled like that. I don't think there's going to be a big Western push. I don't think it's going to be given English packaging and you're going to find it in Target or in Walmart. I think it's going to be something that if they do decide to do something, it'll be a very Japanese exclusive product, and that'll be that. And what will it be? Who knows? I don't know. Some kind of Liger Zero colored like Optimus Prime, or some kind of brand new sculpt. Who knows? Who knows? That one, it's kind of hard to say what they would do. There's so many different designs that you could cross over and have fun with that I can't really predict what one would be compared to the other. But I love Zoids. I mean, I love Zoids, and it's something where, you know, I look all the way back, like in the late 90s, you know, just as someone who was a Gunpla guy, you know, building a lot of Gundam model kits and seeing those Zoids model kits in my model kit store and going like, oh, Zoids, Chaos Century, what's that? And going like, man, that you know, that Hammerhead or the War Shark or the Ray type, all of those were so cool, and buying those and building them, they were great kits. I love Zoids. I'm a lifelong fan of it now, but I also see how, you know, the Western market isn't as, you know, I guess like welcoming of it, I guess is the best way to put it. It's the same way how, you know, Transformers is ridiculously popular, but like Gundam, you know, it had its time in the West, and now it's kind of really just an Eastern property again with its hardcore fans in the West. And it's like you know, you could, dare I say, you know, you could run anime conventions in huge scales, but can you run a Gundam convention in a huge scale in the West? Like we see like with a TFCon or something? I don't know. I don't know how many of those people are there and how much of that passion is there. And there is a huge Gundam community in the West, but just not in the same numbers as the East. And I kind of compare that to Zoids too. I mean, again, Zoids is awesome. Like Moonbay with the Gustav and Naomi with the Gun Sniper and Neon Century Zero. Like there were so many great like kits that I picked up back in the day. But who knows? Who knows? That's a tough one. But I think that it would probably be an Eastern only product. That's just what I think. Just because, you know, Hasbro keeps trying with that brand, but it never really 100% sticks the landing, unfortunately. It's just the market we're in today. It's a very different market, unfortunately. Japan is one market, we're the other. And I don't know, maybe it'll take a mobile game or something that creates some kind of interest. Who knows? That's kind of the sad, you know, dirty word, but that is the truth. So I hope that kind of answers that a little bit. But I mean, again, look what they did with Ava. And I kind of see them kind of maybe doing something like that. Maybe. Or maybe they'll do some cool full-blown thing. There's some Masterpiece Zoid stuff that's coming out from the Takara side. If you're a Zoids fan, you know, Takara is still pumping out a lot of high-quality, great product. So hopefully we'll see some more with a little bit of a splash of the robots in the skies on it at some point. So I hope that answers that. Jesus Prime. Hope that answers that. Also, fun fact, in Evangelion, there's another like Transformer connection there also. The guy who did all the music for Eva, Shiro Sagusu, he also did the arrangement music for the Transformer theme song in Japan. You know, You Can Fight, Transformer. He also did the Transformer 2010 theme song, What's You. He did a whole bunch of stuff. So, you know, there's a lot of connections with Eva, and there's a lot of connections with Zoids too. So there could be something, but it'll be on the Japanese side. Our second listener question that we have comes from Space Ghostal. And Space Ghostal wants to know, hey, Proto Man, my holy grail Transformer is a mint-in-box 1984 Optimus Prime, since this was the first Transformer I got as a kid in Christmas of 1984. I want to get one soon. However, they are really expensive. Do you have any tips on getting a good deal on one? Should I get one graded or not? Keep doing Prime's work. Also, could you please mention on how to not get scammed by knockoffs that are completely out there, if you don't mind? Sure, no problem. So the Mint in Box 84 Optimus Prime, I always find that while he's one of those upper expensive items, he's not rare by any sense of the word. And that's something that you always have to keep in mind, is when you have items that are expensive but they're not rare, you have way more wiggle room when it comes to getting them. So number one, if you're looking at eBay and you have a whole bunch of crazy buy it now guys and everything, don't even bother looking there. There's so many different other opportunities, because those guys, they're willing to put it buy it now for like $500 and sit on it forever. You know, as crazy as it might sound, a Mint in Box 1984 Optimus Prime is not that rare, and sometimes runs as much as your standard high-end masterpiece. Dare I say, like MP44 Optimus Prime 3.0 is more expensive than an original G1 1984 Mint in Box Optimus Prime. Heck, I think you could probably snag a Mint in, like, you know, with the cost of buying an MP44, which is like, what, $550 right now? USD? I could probably pick up a Mint in Box 84 Optimus Prime and then have money left over to maybe get a few other, you know, carded or Mint in Box 84 characters, depending on the condition of the box. So to me, you know, again, 1984 Optimus Prime is not rare. Millions of them were sold. Millions of them were out there between 1984 and 1985. Tons of them. Tons of them. I mean, I remember at one point at TFCon, there was a guy that was just selling boxes, and he had like 5 or 6 G1 Optimus Prime boxes, and he was asking like $30 each, just because there's so much of it out there. You know, you just marry that with a loose complete Optimus, and you're good to go, you know? And then, of course, you know, there was also like the dead stock that found its way into the secondary market between 86 and 89. You know, there was the redemption robo points that they did, and of course all those closeout stores. There is tons of Mint in Box G1 Primes out there in various conditions. So anytime you see one that's going for crazy money that they're asking, and it's always asking, never some crazy bid up number, it's just a matter of waiting. The only reason why I say he's not so valuable also is because there's so many reissues out there. There's so many. Now, granted, some reissues are hit and miss in terms of quality of the original mold, and not to mention some of the Western releases between their short smokestacks or not coming with a trailer. You know, that also kind of makes people go, eh. But there's a lot of people that are willing to settle for those reissues, and as a result, that also pushes down the value of the secondary market for those complete Mint in Box ones. For me, if you're looking to get a 1984 Mint in Box Optimus Prime, it's one of those things that you go to a convention and you go to someone who's selling one on a Sunday after, you know, when the show is about to end, and you make them an offer lower than their sticker price. And, you know, you might end up getting it. And you keep in mind, there would be no tax on that. You could do it cash. And, you know, especially with the way eBay is right now with their buy it nows, and, you know, depending on what state you're in, how big the taxes could be. The con scene just seems more and more of a valuable option for you for the time being. Failing that, if you can't get to a convention, there's so many local groups and message boards, and once in a while you have a guy who's asking for one. But the only problem with those is sometimes those guys are willing to sit on it because they have the comfort of just typing up a listing and letting it sit there for months on end, hoping to get their full value, their full sticker price that they're asking, as opposed to a convention dealer that has 3 days and gets a little antsy just to make back his money for his investment, for his, you know, table cost, travel, hotel, food, etc. So getting that Optimus Prime might pay for, you know, for his table, and, you know, even on a lower cost. Like if you ask him less than his sticker price, you still might be able to get that Transformer from him, and he'll be able to pay for his table and, you know, get gas to go home and everything. But I really think that there is opportunities, but you got to be patient and wait for them. There's too many guys that are asking way too much for Optimus Prime. And again, because he's not rare, he's just, you know, he only goes for these numbers because he's Optimus Prime. That's all it is. He's Optimus Prime. And because he's Optimus Prime, people are asking these crazy numbers. Where, you know, it's not because there's a shortage of them. There's less boxed bludgeons or Thunderwings or Pretender shells in general than there, or even, the Headmasters and stuff like that. There's much more less of those guys than there is of Optimus Primes and Soundwaves and Bumblebees and stuff like that. And combined with the fact that those ones also get reissued like crazy and really satiate the market of people who just want to own any version of that mold, not just the original, that also puts the downward pressure off of the secondary market for those original ones. So you're lucky in that case. Now, in terms of like the bootlegs, it's eBay. If you see a guy selling a mint-in-box Optimus Prime and he's based out of Taiwan or China, you do not pick it up. Also, the mint-in-box ones, there's a lot of tells that you could tell on them. The box is way more glossy. They don't use a proper foam on the inside to hold the figure. There's a lot of little tells and stuff like that, but that's something I'd really have to, it's something I'd have to show in person in a lot of ways. There is, of course, also little font things too and everything. There's some great websites, I'm pretty sure, that have documented them, but the problem is that the bootlegs have changed throughout the years, and they've started to become better and better at mimicking the packaging. But the one thing they can't mimic is aged 1984, near 40-year-old cardboard. And so it's always going to have that sheen and gloss. If you're buying a mint-in-box Optimus Prime and it looks like it came fresh out of a case, it's probably too good to be true. Probably too good to be true. And as when it comes to, also you asked about graded ones, honestly, this is my take. I think graded action figures really aren't a thing. I really don't. I could understand graded comic books. I could understand a lot of other things, but graded action figures, I don't know, man. Like graded comic books are one thing because you could get a graded comic book and then you could read a reprint or a digital version of it, so you could still get the experience without damaging the original. But when you grade an action figure, you're just locking it away forever to take away that experience 100%. It's like the only way you'd be able to experience that action figure is either through a reissue or some kind of cheap bootleg. But when you think about like, I got a graded, bludgeon G1, how do you then experience that in a cheaper fashion now that you've graded and sealed away your bludgeon figure in an acrylic case? There's no reissues or bootlegs of it. So the graded action figure world is still a weird one to me. And I think that it's a little inflated. I think that the people that are selling them and or buying them are really just kind of buying amongst each other. And it's something that just doesn't make sense from my mind because, I don't know, I could understand, oh, hey, you got this perfect, 100% legitimate, perfect condition, 1984 still sealed in the box G1 Optimus Prime, and you want to get it graded. Hey, good on you. Good on you. That's a very cherry item, very pretty piece of historical history that's in perfect condition. But in terms of the value and who in the fandom is going to want to pay that kind of money, it is literally like the amount of people that I know that would want to pay that would probably exist on one hand. No joke. And I'm always reminded of, that TF Con. I forget which year it was. It was the very first USA one in Chicago, where there was this one guy that just had a whole booth only of graded Transformers. Dude didn't sell anything that whole weekend. Because that's not the culture with us. It really isn't. And the guys who do partake in that usually aren't from the Transformer fandom. They're speculators from other toy collecting and comic books and coins and video games and TCGs. Like those guys are kind of, they're kind of from another world, and they're going to be in for a surprise when they realize that 99.9999999% of Transformer fans don't care about a graded 1984 Optimus Prime. They really don't. So that's just my take. Let me know what you think. But it is what it is. But again, I suggest just wait it out. Don't look at eBay. And if you are looking at eBay, look at listings that start low and then see how they bid up. That's one way to do it. MIB Optimus Prime 1984. And then do list by lowest listings and see, maybe there's a guy that starts it at like, $40, and maybe no one's going to be looking that weekend, and you could slide a few bids in and get it cheap. But otherwise, eBay is usually the tougher one. I would suggest conventions and local groups, and then hopefully there's some guy that's asking an honest price and not what a silly buy it now is for Optimus Prime, because he's not a rare item. I don't care what anyone says. Target Master 1987 Hot Rod, way more rare than a G1 Optimus Prime. Monstructor, way more rare than an Optimus Prime. Anything after 1987 has way more rarity than a G1 Optimus Prime. There's just too much of that out there. So anyways, that's my take. Those were the Patreon listener questions today. So thank you, Space Ghostal, and of course, Jesus Prime. If you want to be like the pair, cool bunch of guys, and join the Patreon, and just help support the podcast, patreon.com/Protoman. And check the pinned comment or the description below. Get that link and come join us. And we'll rock out with the robots in disguise.